You hear the name Warren Buffett and you immediately think of investing, right? Wealth, wisdom, and this kind of down-to-earth guy from Omaha, Nebraska. I mean, this is a man who took a failing old textile mill and somehow turned it into a global powerhouse, all while living a surprisingly normal life. But the most amazing part of his story isn't just how he made all that money. It's what he's planning to do with it.
And that's the big question, isn't it? It's the central paradox of Warren Buffett. He spent his entire life mastering the game, accumulating one of the world's biggest fortunes with this laser focus on value. But his end game, it was never just about getting rich. It was about building this massive engine to just give it all away. So how on earth did he pull it off? And what happens now that he's stepping away?
Well, that question got a whole lot more real in May of 2025. After more than 60 years in charge, the Oracle of Omaha announced he was finally stepping down. This wasn't just any retirement, it was the end of one of the most legendary runs in business history, and it set the stage for a brand new chapter.
So, to really get what's happening with Berkshire now, we've got to go back, way back. Because to understand the company, you first have to understand the man. And his journey didn't start on Wall Street. Nope. It started with the small-time hustles of a kid from Omaha who was just obsessed with making a buck.
And when I say he started early, I mean really early. We're talking age 7. While most of us were, playing with toys, a young Warren Buffett checks a book out of the library called 1,000 Ways to Make $1,000. For him, this wasn't just a book. It was basically his roadmap for life.
And he didn't just read about it, he went out and did it. At just 11, he buys his first stock. By 15, he's basically a pinball machine tycoon, turning a tiny $25 investment into $1,200. Then he goes to Columbia, studies under his hero, Benjamin Graham, and starts his own investment funds. By age 32, he's already a millionaire. The pace is just staggering.
Okay, so what was the secret sauce here? What was driving all this? It was something called value investing, the whole philosophy he picked up from Benjamin Graham. And the idea, it's actually pretty simple, but it's also profound. It's stop thinking about stocks as just tickers on a screen. Instead, think of them as what they are, small pieces of an actual business. Your job is to figure out what that whole business is really worth, its true intrinsic value. Then you just wait. You wait for the market to get scared or silly and offer you a price that's way less than that true value. That difference, that cushion, that's your margin of safety.
So, Buffett took these core ideas from his mentor and, he made them his own. Over the years, he forged his own set of golden rules that guided literally every single move he made.
And this is the big one. You've probably heard it. It sounds so simple, right? Never lose money. Of course, you're going to have some losses. That's just part of the game. But what he's really saying is that protecting your money, your capital, is everything. It's way more important to avoid the big, stupid mistakes than it is to chase some spectacular win. If you don't lose your starting cash, you'll always be in the game.
But here's where things get super interesting. This is where Buffett actually broke from his teacher's playbook. See, Graham was what they called a cigar butt investor. He'd look for these beaten-down, ugly companies that had just one last puff of profit left in them. But Buffett, thanks to his partner Charlie Munger, made a huge shift. They realized, hey, it's actually much, much better to buy a truly wonderful company at a fair price than it is to buy a fair company at a wonderful price.
So, okay, what does he mean by a wonderful business? For him, it boils down to one simple, powerful thing: pricing power. Think about it. Can a company raise its prices without everyone immediately running off to a competitor? If the answer is yes, then you've found something special. You've got what he calls a great business with a real economic moat around it.
And when he finds one of these amazing businesses, he's not in it for a quick flip. He's in it for the long haul. I mean, his favorite holding period is literally forever. It's the complete opposite of all the frantic day trading you see today. He famously said if you're not willing to own a stock for 10 years, you shouldn't even think about owning it for 10 minutes. It's about partnership, not speculation.
All right, so let's look at how he put all this into practice to build an absolute empire. And it all started with one single failing company that he would turn into his masterpiece.
It's kind of funny. His greatest achievement actually started with what he himself called his worst investment ever. Back in 1962, he started buying up shares in this company, Berkshire Hathaway. It was a textile mill in New England that was just completely falling apart. He bought it because it was dirt cheap, a classic cigar butt investment, but he pretty quickly realized the business itself was just awful. So what did he do? He pivoted, big time. He kept the name, Berkshire Hathaway, but
but he started using the tiny profits from the textile business to buy into much better companies, starting with insurance. And over decades, that strategy just compounded and compounded into what we see today. I mean, just look at this list. Berkshire's top holdings read like a who's who of iconic, powerhouse brands. The scale is just mind-boggling.
So you add all that up, that forever mindset, that focus on amazing companies, and what do you get? Well, as of early 2026, the value of Berkshire's stock portfolio alone was north of $277 billion. That number, that's the result of a lifetime of patience and discipline.
Okay, so that brings us right back to the present day. With Buffett stepping down, what's the legacy he's leaving behind? And it's really a two-part story. There's the future of the company he built, and then there's the future of the massive fortune he made. When it comes to the company, look, this was no surprise. The plan has been in the works for years. It's super clear and methodical. Greg Abel, a guy who's been at Berkshire forever, he takes over as CEO to run the actual businesses. The investing, that'll be handled by a separate team. And here's the key part. While Buffett's family will still own a ton of stock, they won't be running the company. The culture he built is designed to outlast him. And you can see that his successor, Greg Abel, is totally on board with this long-term thinking. He's not just there to keep the lights on. He's already talking about where the company will be 20 years from now, making sure that the culture of trust and value that Buffett built is going to last.
So that's the company. But what about all that money? His personal fortune? Well, this is where the story gets really wild. Back in 2010, he teamed up with Bill and Melinda Gates to create the Giving Pledge. He committed to give away nearly all of his money. And I don't mean some of it or even most of it. We're talking 99% of it.
And his reasoning for it? It's just as straightforward as his rules for investing. He basically says, look, that first 1% of my money gives me and my family everything we could ever possibly want or need. But that other 99%, in the hands of others, it can do an unbelievable amount of good for the world. To him, the choice is just obvious.
So here we are. One of the most incredible stories in business history is turning a new page. And the final question is really about legacy. Warren Buffett didn't just pick good stocks. He planted a forest of incredible businesses. And now, we all get to watch and see if that forest, so carefully nurtured by the Oracle himself, can keep on growing for generations to come.